just before we kick in, I'm going to be hosting the slides because this, as I said before, this, as India and Nathan said, this is a special kind of format. It's 20 slides, 15 seconds each, and they're auto-revolving. Just to make sure the speakers stick to the rules. They are not handling their slides at all. I am. So when I hit go, they are go. They're automatically revolving each time. So it's kind of a fun event. So I'll get up the first deck, share my screen here. So I think this is going to be Lara. And when I hit enter, the 5 minutes will start. So there we go. Over to you.
I'm Lara, Relationships, Connections and Assemblage Lead from Slowways. And we are creating a national walking network. Slowways has many funders, but predominantly is funded by the lottery by the community fund. We are set up as a CIC, and you'll see that there are many other funders who have helped us along the way, including Sports England and Paths for All. We're creating a national walking network of routes that connect all of Great Britain's towns and cities. All of the routes have already been drafted and then digitally put on our website, and now they all need walking on the ground. The purpose and the vision of Slowways is to get more people walking more often, further and for more purposes. So that is at the front of all of our work when we're talking about Slowways. We have 10 design principles for Slowways. So the first one is to be safe, then respectful to the local codes, accessible to as many people as possible, direct and off-road, and have as many resting places and public transport as possible. So what is a slowway? A slowway is the straight line between two different towns and cities. You'll see here that there may be various different routes between those two places, but the slowway is connecting the two places. We already have connected 2,500 places across Great Britain. We have more than 9,000 routes, and we have 1,336 routes that have already been verified. Now, let me show you these two images. You can see on the left-hand side are all of the Slowways routes, and you can see that the purple lines on the right-hand side are the routes that have already been verified, and that means that 3 people have already walked and reviewed them. So at the moment, we're in phase 1. We're asking people to choose a route on the website, walk the route, and then review it. And the review you'll see is very, very important to us. So here is a snapshot from the website. You go onto the homepage. There is a short video that explains it. And then you type in the place that is closest to you. I chose to put in Redditch. And then you'll see then this is the place page. And so these are the different routes that connect Redditch with other towns and other places near it. And you'll see that there's quite a lot of information around the distance and also the reviews that have already happened. I chose this route here because it is a 5-star route and it needed verifying, which means 2 people had already walked it. And so it just needs that extra one. You'll see on the right-hand side, so download the GPX file. So you can then download that and use with other applications to navigate. This is then the review page. What you do is you can write a short comment, you give a star rating, and also you can add some photos to show people that what happened on your route. Here is example reviews. So we're both looking for positive reviews, but we'd also really like to know if the route is not good enough. You'll see at the bottom that there are some examples of that. Now then, I've chosen Alton as a place an example to show that Alton is only 50% checked, and the purple line is the only route that has been verified for Alton. But you can see lots of information here. The green squiggly lines are all of the routes, and as I said, the purple one in Alton is the only one that has been verified. But you can also see the other links on the right-hand side, just under where it says it, where else it is linked to. So how can councils help? We feel that councils are in a really unique position and have a really special job that can help out with this, as it is a national project. So how I've chosen 4 ways. One is to walk a walk. So find something on the website and walk a route yourself. Share it in some way with the people in your community, with your parishioners or constituents. You can follow us on social media and also share our social media posts on your own. And then please put us on the agenda. Different councils have chosen to work with slowways in different ways, but it works for increasing walking activity in terms of health. Active travel, it's a big one for all councils, as you'll know. And so walking and wheeling between places is really good. And then also it helps with inclusivity and with pocket if people are walking more often between places. So will your council help create a national walking network? Slowways.org. Thank you. I saw somebody shared in the comments. Please follow us on social media and do feel free to get in touch with me personally if you'd like to know more. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lara. You handled that well, all my mistakes. So I'm manually doing this with my timer here. So don't worry for the rest of you. Don't panic. Kezia is up next. So I will just get the slides ready. Over to you, Kezia.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name's Kezia Williamson. I'm Head of Place at Innovate UK KTN. Delighted to be here today, and thanks to John and everyone, the organising team, for putting all of the hard work into today. For those of you who are not familiar with the Innovate UK system, I'll start with an introduction. Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency. I work in the connecting and convening part, and our role is to connect for positive change. Oh, being too fast, yeah. Okay, so we're also part of UK Research and Innovation, where we work alongside UK government to invest over £7 billion a year in research and innovation, partnering with academia and industry and councils as well to make the impossible possible. My role within this system is to look after what we do in places around the UK that benefit those places. And this includes developing strategic collaboration activities with key local stakeholders, business clusters, as well as funders and investors. And the activity I want to introduce to you today is some of what we are doing to help places around the UK to reach net zero through innovation. Our goal with this is to help make UK net zero a reality by working with local authorities to inspire, involve and invest, enabling the adoption of innovative solutions and ensuring that no part of the UK gets left behind in this process. Our Net Zero Places Innovation Network is a community of local authorities spanning the UK, and in particular we're looking at convening officers with roles at covering climate, net zero, sustainability, etc. But everyone's welcome. Because after all, we're facing the same challenges across the country, and we're convening working groups to share knowledge and to work together to solve these common yet extremely complex challenges. So our focus is our community of local authority officers, got net zero targets and need to be able to understand how the technology and innovation can support and be able to procure those innovative solutions. We also work with procurement professionals then who can amend or create procurement frameworks for those innovative solutions that can be then used by many local authorities, and we're bringing them in early in the process. We also work with other providers in the ecosystem who have complementary activities, tools, funding opportunities to help enable net zero. This includes the Net Zero Hubs, Catapults, Local Government Association and others. And then we then work across our extensive network. We've got over 250,000 innovators in our network to find those net zero solutions that can best support public sector to reach these targets that we've all got. So how are we delivering this activity? And most importantly, how can you get involved? I mentioned that we inspire, involve and invest, so I want to explore what this means in practice. So first off, you can be inspired. We have through our monthly newsletter. This includes insights, funding, news, events, case studies, as well as signposting across the ecosystem. It's all tailored for local authority officers like you. You can sign up on our Net Zero Places page. You can get involved. We have our next webinar is on the 26th of October, looking at providing an overview of the UK's net zero strategy, specifically through a public sector lens. You can also get involved through our working groups and sector-specific activity. Just some of the topics that we've got going on at the moment include rural mobility, hydrogen, and lowland peat. So you can see it really covers a breadth. And then the all-important money question. So Innovate UK is investing £60 million over 3 years through this Net Zero Living programme, with the aim to help places and businesses across the UK to accelerate the delivery of the transition to net zero. £2 million has already been invested, for example, across 31 projects that span the UK for feasibility and studies that are looking to understand what approaches to test in local areas. So I realised that was a whistle-stop tour of how we can support you to engage in innovation. So I'd just like to end by saying you can find out more on our website, but please also feel free to connect directly with myself or with a member of my team. Simon and Kevin are both experienced local authority officers who are now running the community and activities, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kezia. Yes, I'll just switch over now to Victoria. Right, I'll share screen. Over to you, Victoria.
Right, thanks, John. So I'm Victoria, I'm from Solder Creative Technology Studio, and I'm going to talk a bit about how we can use one of the most advanced countries in the world in terms of IoT to talk about how you can start implementing it in your local area, and also give you a bit of a briefing on what IoT is as well. So if you have a smart meter in your home, that is IoT. IoT, Internet of Things, is a term that was coined when the internet made the leap from looking like something like this on the left, a designated terminal, to something that has sensors and processing ability and software, and that kind of enhances our everyday lives. Any device that's connected to the internet and that can transmit data is IoT. You might also hear smart devices, fourth industrial revolution, industry 4.0, intelligent systems, machine-to-machine communication, web of things, the list goes on and on. It's everything from fridges that tell you that you run out of milk to finish trackers. Let's talk about Songdo. So Songdo is a built from scratch city. It was very much build it and they will come. It's in South Korea, and it was designed to be a completely sustainable high-tech city that would plan for a future without cars, without pollution, without overcrowded spaces, and basically be everything that Seoul was not. Some of the world's most advanced urban technology was used in its construction. We're talking streets lined with sensors that monitor energy usage and traffic flow, homes that were operated by mobile apps and control everything from heating to air conditioning. And it's borrowed quite a lot of elements from other brilliant cities to live in. So it's got New York Central Park, New York's grid system, it's got canals, it's got Singapore's pocket parks, and it's got a performing arts centre that's very like the Opera House in Sydney. And that gave the whole town a feeling of familiarity. What we're going to do is look at a few of the things that Songdo does that make it a world leader in terms of integrating technology into their citizens' daily lives. So in Songdo, they have smart trash chutes in buildings that basically made conventional street collection redundant. It also has schemes that reduce food wastage by calculating the waste by grams. It has had a weird unexpected side effect in that people are actually getting, there's more litter being generated on the street because there aren't bins on the street to collect that litter. Their disease control is obviously kind of state of the art and really at the forefront. Smart transport, again, they've got loads and loads of interesting stuff happening. So smart pedestrian crossings, like you can see here, bus shelters that are enclosed with UV sterilizers, air purification, temperature controls, obviously charging, and all powered entirely by solar as well. Again, with transport, they've got something called the iMod bus. So you can summon it with an app, and it's a great way for multiple people or groups to travel to places that are not necessarily serviced by conventional bus routes. They've also got, you know, robot parking in their car park, self-driving shuttles. And in terms of public safety, they've got a few other devices as well. So Korea's implemented a red button emergency system where you can hit the button and the public can call for help if they need it. It's connected to a control center with operatives where you can monitor CCTV and speak directly with the person who's called the button as well. Speaking of the operations center, everything feeds into an integrated operations center that monitors activity 24/7. Following a crime, the cameras can be used to kind of swiftly identify people who fit the description of the perpetrator. This is done based on something called a machine learning algorithm. I'm sure you've all kind of started to hear talk of big data and learning and that kind of thing. That's a whole other conversation to have. But obviously, there's been a few kind of privacy concerns that have been raised. It can identify based on gender, clothing, age, car makes and models, and all sorts of things. People have reported cameras that are following them dancing down the street because it's designed to recognize an unusual movement. So there's definitely kind of two sides to the coin in terms of how people look at implementing these things. One of the real issues with machine learning is that it's what we call a black box technology. So it can be extremely difficult to understand the reasoning that the algorithms applied during this decision-making process. The city cost somewhere in the region, and it's still in the process of being built, of $40 billion. It's a privately funded project. And critics have called the city overdue, overpriced, and underpopulated. One of the harshest criticisms have been from people who have called the city lonely. So in 2018, Songdo was a city that was intended for 300,000 inhabitants, and it only had 100,000. Recent estimates, it's somewhere in the region of 170. So in terms of bringing that back to your lives, how do you start to bring it into your communities? The first thing is to start small. So Songdo is a custom built city that was built entirely from scratch. You need to begin to pilot your projects in very small key areas, and then test and learn before you scale up. Community engagement is really key. So you need to make sure that you're involving your citizens in this decision-making process and foster the kind of collaborative attitude with local businesses and creatives in the area so that you can really understand the need. And you need to really prioritize people. So technology for technology's sake isn't where you should be coming at from with this. You need to place your citizens at the heart of your urban technology planning, and make sure you're addressing the real community needs for a better quality of life.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Victoria. So we're leading to our final speaker, Rachael. I'll bring up the slides and then you can all relax for the Q&A. Here we go. So over to you, Rachael.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Yes, I'm Rachael Tiffen. I'm Director of Public Sector and Learning at CIFAS. CIFAS is a not-for-profit cross-sector membership organisation, and we do three things. We do data, intelligence and learning. And so I'm going to talk to you a bit about fraud prevention tips. To start off, I'm going to talk to you about the scale and nature of fraud, because we can't talk about tackling it unless we know exactly what's in there, and then a bit about tips and a bit about resources. So on to nature and scale. We look at local government and central government separately in respect of public sector figures. So I've got a couple of sets of figures here for local government. The last set of figures that were produced were in 2013, a decade ago, in that strategy that was mentioned that I wrote when I was working at the Home Office. And at that point, it was 2.1 billion based upon work that we had done with the Audit Commission. I mean, I think we all say now that it's probably a lot higher than that. The central government figures last year, the NAO worked with the Public Sector Fraud Authority, who's part of the Cabinet Office and Treasury, and they named the scale of fraud in central government as around 33 billion. So what is the nature? Well, it can be pretty much anything. I've been hearing about licensing this morning, but procurement, grants, business rates, insider, insurance, bribery, corruption, housing, and actually more recently we've been looking at horizon scanning, polygamous working, but lots of issues with people since they've been working from home, working for numerous organisations, Homes for Ukraine frauds, and a whole lot of frauds related to COVID grants for the small business rates grants that councils administered. So tips and resources, I'd probably be here all day talking about actual tips. So what I've done is put together a few tips and some of the places that you can go to get advice. We did talk about the local government counter-fraud strategy, that's called Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally. So I've got some clips from that where you can see information that you can use to help you tackle fraud better. So it's the front page of the document, and it's put together by Solace, Local Government Association, and a number of councils who sit on a board. And the research was commissioned by the LGA. Here are all the logos of people who support it. Supports the actual research for the document. It's myself that did the research and the drafting, but on behalf of Solace and the LGA. It's actually an LGA initiative. So we say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's better to prevent it than have to investigate it afterwards. Some tips: you can use any sort of analytic tools. There are numerous ones out there. Due diligence, risk assessments, vetting of staff, and having trained staff to look at investigations. And if you don't have them, at least knowing where to get them from. So we do actually have this Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally board and a regional group, which is most of the fraud managers in England. And we have resources in something called the K-Hub. So within FFCL, there are 4 pillars that we talk about: govern, acknowledge, prevent and pursue, where people can undertake activity, and underpinning it all is protection of public funds and protecting residents. There are a number of resources that you can access on the LGA pages. So this is a clip of it, and I've got the link at the end. There's all sorts of tools on here, reports that have been published, and then you can look at FFCL itself. There are checklists, and I'll show you the checklist in a second. There's advice for councillors, senior officers, and also specifically the audit committee. Here's some more information on the areas that we found during research for the strategy and explanations of what they are. So basically that list that I showed you earlier, some more detail on what those look like. And here's a copy of the checklist, probably pretty small here, but I've sent you I've got the link on here so you can have a look in a bit more detail at it. But there are actually specific areas that councils put together with me on what people might need to look at if you were the chief exec or the 151 officer. So I've got some links here: Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally on the LGA pages. You can pick up a load of documents on the CIFAS pages. We also have a lot of free resources for councils, like fraud awareness packs for schools, for example. And my email address is on here too. So if you're interested in knowing more or accessing those resources, do feel free to contact me or have a look at the CIFAS pages.